The forbidden legacy of the gods. When you look at the fruits, it is obvious. The good guys didn't win. It is all a charade and con to get us to follow a behavior of being petty slaves all under the guise we are following what is right, proper and true. The fourth dimension is the world of God and the third dimension is the world of Satan. Yet both are of the same. Lucifer as the good / God along with his most obedient followers, called the Watchers. They control this realm from the invisible heavenly world. And they are also known to us today as aliens. And Satan and his followers actively participate in the third dimension as the lower controllers or gods of earth. Yet still under the power of the Watchers, or the upper gods. We were told Satan lost the war and was sent to earth along with his angels. This means the polarity half of Lucifer was sent into a lower dimension along with other polarity twins of the gods. The problem is and has always been, we just assumed earth was the prison for Satan and his angels. We just assumed that the Father's heaven is where Michael and his angels came from. It never dawned on us that Michael was a chief prince of Lucifer. It reveals the name Michael is one who is like God. It doesn't say he is like the Father, as is the Christ. Ask yourself, if these were spirit angels, what possible war could there be? We see in our heavens a war did take place. But spirits could not be affected by material violence. Just because a planet may have exploded, do you really believe it would affect spirit beings? What you need to begin to grasp is, the gods were flesh and blood beings by also wearing avatar bodies. When you read the story of Zeus and Apollo and Hercules, these were beings of the flesh. They could mate with women and even have offspring, as humans. Just like us today. When we come here we are divided between soul and body. When we enter the avatar human biological computer we then become attuned to the computer brain. And the soul goes to sleep. Michael was the chief prince of Lucifer, he was his general. He did the fighting for him. Why? Because Michael was likened unto a man. Michael is often mentioned in the Bible as the Prince of Israel, the one who stands to protect Israel. He was known and seen as a man as were other angels, because he was a man, but of higher vibration. For he was also an alien visitor, or angel, who really was Michael. He was an angel of God. Today we would call him an alien watcher who can take on human form. But he is not human. Michael, or another higher commanding officer, was the angel that spoke to Moses at the burning bush. Michael was the proxy god of this world. As the chief prince, it stated in the story of the burning bush that Moses spoke to the angel of the Lord, because he was the proxy for Lucifer. Lucifer remains in the fourth dimension while sending proxies, or angels, which are messengers to this realm. Therefore, Michael was the proxy god as YHVH of the Old Testament who served as the chief prince of Lucifer. And Satan was in type, his brother. The ancient Sumerians called Michael Enlil, or Lord of the Spirit. This is because he was a watcher god who could move between dimensions at will. Whereas Satan was called Enki, Lord of the Earth, one who was bound on his belly, unable to walk, so to speak, to slither. Enki became the god of this world, as Satan is the god of this world. Michael Enlil was the proxy god angel from heaven, as he maneuvered back and forth, as he was ordered. Therefore, Satan lost the war in heaven. However, being sent to Earth was not an imprisonment. It was a delegation assignment where he was to become the god of Earth, or the god of the lower matrix simulation program. Part of his duty was to trick humans who were the children of the Father to follow the polarity tree, the very instrument that Lucifer created. Now, Michael told them not to. But as I explained in my other works, that all of it was a trap to make sure humans failed. Therefore, Satan was never imprisoned on Earth. The children of the Father became the prisoners of Earth to serve Satan. And Lucifer, under the proxy of Michael, gave us the illusion that we were on the victor's side of the great war in heaven, to bring us into the illusion of good and evil, always believing that one day we would prevail again. Therefore, it was the children of the Father who were sent into the Earth prison and were trapped by Satan to follow him in the duality realm, which represented our being placed into a deep sleep, where we left the fourth dimension and become three-dimensional matrical-born humans. How then was there a war in heaven? The answer lies in the fact that we have long been part of the Matrix and had long been part of other worlds, planets, and galaxies. The only difference was we mastered space and time travel using the protocols of the fourth dimension. The war stopped all of that, so all the children of the Father would be sentenced into the Earth program and unable to leave again. The real war in heaven was Lucifer fighting against the children of the Father. It was us that were conquered in the great war in heaven, not Satan. We were the causalities of the war while living on different planets. Satan was simply sent down to Earth to become the prison guard to make sure the children never leave again. We became stuck inside a time loop instead of being free to roam the third-dimensional universe and above. Do you understand? If we were on the victor's team, if the Father really did fight against Satan, and defeated him and sent him to Earth, then why are we Satan's prisoners? Why is he ruling over this world? Why is he called the god of this earth? It doesn't add up. It makes no sense. Something ain't kosher here. I maintain that the Father nor his children would ever be engaged in war unless they fell from their standards. Simply because war, violence and killing are not in the character of the Father. The idea was, an angel known as Michael fought for the children of the Father. And yet somehow, we, the recipients of this victory, are in worse shape now than ever before. The truth is, Michael is the god of Israel, which is under the authority of Lucifer, which you are about to learn all about. He goes under different names, for different schemes, but it is all for the same cause. Understand? There is always one truth about good and evil, and that is, good is limited by its very nature and character as to what it can do without itself being corrupted. Evil has no limitations. It has already been corrupted. It can do whatever it needs to overcome any rival in any situation. The problem with people today is they have been led and guided by the true victors, which were the evil cabal, the fallen angels who would do anything they needed to win this battle. Lie, cheat, deceive, kill, and destroy, whatever it takes. And the people have taken this as an honor of their own God, not realizing the Father and Mother had nothing to do with this war. The truth is, good can never follow the ways of evil and come out a winner. They would always be compromised. If good decided to be evil for a short time just to become victorious, it would then become the very same evil. Once good enters the world of evil, it begins to imitate it. It is my contention. The children of the Father were simply conquered as causalities of war, and had no way to defend themselves. When the war came upon them, there was no way to fight against these warlord conquerors without having the necessary tools of war, especially the mind of evil. They simply were conquered and then became prisoners, not only of body and mind, but of soul. The question is, why the Father didn't reach out to save them? Part of the problem as it is now, is that the people forgot to turn to the Father and Mother for their help and tried to do it on their own. And doing so became partially corrupted as their enemy was and were taken captive as prisoners of war. You see, there is one thing Lucifer always tries to get us to do, and that is to reject the Father, to become like Lucifer in mind and character in the good and evil game. This means, if you must for the cause of good, become evil, just for a little while, which is fine for Lucifer, because he knows once you do you will be trapped. Remember, he claimed he was the one and only and there was none like him. He was very jealous. Once we deny the Father, we lose our true protection. I believe we are powerful souls of a ground spirit that is mightier than Lucifer could ever be. But our ways to victory are not through war, but spiritual guidance and direction. We do not need war to defend ourselves. The Father could simply block any attack coming our way, and war would never be needed. Once we turn to the dark side even to protect ourselves, we become part of the malady, and thus, we must pay the penalty of following that path, of which would be prisoners of the warlords. How many times in our life now do we try to do things on our own instead of calling out to the Father? And we fail time and time again. I believe that is the ultimate challenge to become free. The Father knows war is not in our character or inner being, but he also knows we chose to be compromised for self-safety instead of total trust. We tried to save our own lives and therefore we continue to lose them. So here we are again in another war of sorts, always being plagued inside the time loop of our prison, having to deal with this end-time scenario where we either try to fight the battle ourselves, which we are doomed for certain defeat, or we step back as we should have done in the Great War in heaven and simply allow the Father to intervene. Sadly, the fruits are proving what the children did are verified because they are doing it again. Some may ask, how do we flee this prison? The only answer is, trust in the Father, that which we didn't do in the war in heaven. We were defeated and our souls were culled. Yet all of it occurred due to this holographic world we had been placed within, so we could be controlled without ever knowing we were defeated, by simply erasing all memory from us forevermore, using these human avatar programmed bodies. And that brings me to asking the question, just what is this holographic world and how did we get here? My answer is based in part in speculation, theory, and viewing how things operate in this lower world. I believe the catch-22 is that there is a matter-type world Earth that was of a different matrix. It was a higher energy world, within the third dimension. Try not to be confused at this point. The third dimensional matrix world is a projection. It is not real. It is a virtual interactive reality. Simulation. Once upon a time we all lived in the fourth dimension matter universe. The fourth dimensional universe is like the fifth dimension, but it is at a lower vibrational rate due to Lucifer's rebellion from perfection. The vibrational rate was changed when Lucifer and his angels rebelled, and due to the rebellion began to change the energy vibration where Lucifer was automatically lowered into the fourth dimension, which was still replicating the fifth dimension, but error then entered the realm of perfection. Lucifer then automatically lost access to all the higher dimensions where the Father's realm of perfection exists. The children of the Father took upon forms as we desired. And as souls we could instantly change from one form to another. It was then we also began to fall into the lower vibrations and became lost. The fallen universe of the fourth dimension began to be filled with alien worlds and cultures. There was very little restriction. One could travel the cosmos at will. As time went on, values were developed. More and more alien races came into being. Worlds had developed their own creeds, philosophies, natures and science. In time, wars began. Slowly but surely worlds became defined as separate and unique. Good and evil was being generated all over. The initial polarity separation had begun. But it was not working. The fourth dimension was linked to the third dimensions, and to access them you simply went virtual. Sort of like getting inside a machine that was a virtual reality simulator. As more and more worlds began to turn to evil in their philosophy, the vibration became lower and lower. Matter became denser. Life became more of a burden. And Lucifer was starting to lose control. As the vibrations of the universe became denser and lower, pre-humans were beginning to form new worlds of extreme density until we began to devolve and worlds such as Earth came into existence. As the vibrations, due to evil machinations, sunk to new and lower levels, technology began to arise in the attempt to bring us back to the way we were. We began to turn to technology to recreate what we lost as natural abilities from higher levels of vibrations. Some worlds were still highly spiritual and more evolved. But many other worlds were sinking into oblivion. Wars, turmoils, violence, degradation, loss of spiritual values, and so much more was bringing into light a horrible reality. In that we were creating a prison for ourselves by faulty judgment and lowering our spiritual discernment. Some of the angels decided to become gods over these worlds. And Lucifer was all but losing control. He became very angry and jealous that anyone would follow any other god than himself. Especially the lower angels. This is when the Great War in heaven began. Lucifer then summoned a legion of angels who would obey, worship and serve him. And their goal was to take down the other angels that decided to become gods. Doing so, however, meant destruction of worlds and billions of lives lost. As the vibrations entered lower and lower, death became a seeming reality that was never known before. As the bodies that were created by the soul mind became more corrupt and dense, they then took upon the illusion of death. The soul began to separate from the body. What we have here is two distinct realities, where the soul mind can create automatically a body and environment to exist within. When technology was created due to the soul sleeping, then that was our way to create these virtual worlds. Vibration is the key. The lower the vibration, the denser matter becomes. The higher vibrational levels create a more energetic, elastic body with form. And still higher yet, it becomes an energy body without form. This is going to sound unbelievable, but Lucifer figured out a way to track the souls of the children of the Father as well as the gods who didn't see eye to eye with the Supreme Leader. It all happened when technology was becoming more creative. Where holograms, simulations and virtual realities all came into existence using technology on the lower, denser planets. The reality is, The history of our Earth as well as many other planets like Mars and Saturn were inhabited by real human-like beings with their unique shapes, images and likeness based upon their level of vibration and planetary connection. The higher vibrational beings could exist on gaseous worlds. The lower vibrational beings lived upon matter worlds. A soul could exist on a gaseous world, but only a virtual avatar can exist on a material world. On the higher vibrational planets, technology was supreme, beyond any other science, and they led the way into virtual worlds. In fact, the history of Earth already existed and events took place that were recorded. We are simply reliving one of the many recordings of Earth's history while also being interactive. As the technology expanded on the various planets, a new technology was designed called virtual reality simulation, where anyone could relive their selected planet's history. If you think this is strange or deny the possibility of something like this ever occurring, all you need to do is look at our world right now. Because what we are experiencing now are the fundamentals of a program that was copied from another history, from another time and place, and due to the virtual reality principle, we are interacting within it as if being in live mode. And the only difference is, we have no future past a certain point where the program must end. We only come to the point in time where we are at the full development stage of AI and artificial realities as a copy of what happened before we entered the virtual world. And that is when our world comes to its end. Entire worlds were adopting this new feature, where more and more souls who had become 4D humans were entering these virtual worlds at a 3D level. The war in heaven was a war in the third dimensional worlds. This war occurred prior to the Earth program being re-established, and it became the only planet remaining that had human life, at least in the third dimensional realm. But Lucifer still needed a way to control everyone, and he finally figured it out. Therefore, we witnessed third dimensional displacement in our space-time continuum, because it was a third dimensional war. If it was fourth dimensional, we would not see anything representative of a war, like meteors and comets and asteroids, revealing exploded planets, and planets appearing as if they had been mutilated. The movie Star Wars depicts this war in heaven.